Hey everybody, it's Emily from Life So Savory, and today I'm going to be completing the cute little tankini swimsuit that I started on Monday. And if you missed that live, it's shared to my page, my group, and it's also posted on the Brother Sews page. So you should check that out. I'll be showing you those tops that we made, and then we're going to be making a couple of bottoms to go with them. So that is what we're going to be doing today. It's a fun and easy project, and if you've never sewed swim, I hope this would give you some inspiration and some confidence that you could do it. So that's what we're going to be doing. Hey Carol, so stop in, say hi, let me know what you're up to. Hey Marty. So anyway, yeah, check in, let me know that you're around. Patricia can hear me, which is great. Hopefully we are all on target and can see each other. So anyway, I see you guys rolling in, and I'm just going to go ahead and do a couple of shares, and then we'll go ahead and get started. So hang with me, say hi, and we will get sewing here in just a minute. So I'm going to grab these. If you missed at the very beginning, I am going to be sewing the bikini bottoms to go with the tankini tops that I started on Monday when I sewed with Angela on the Brother Sews page. So that's what we're going to be doing. So I'm going to show you a couple different options for elastic and just some tips for sewing swim successfully. Can I spell tankini though? Is that really a word? It's underlining it. Okay. All right, so, yay, okay. So we are sewing, like I mentioned, tankinis. And the tops are actually really cute little, a cross between a swim top and a rash guard. And Carol, that's hilarious. She was willing to mail it to you just so it could get finished, huh? So on Monday, I sewed these with Angela, and these are using my free raglan t-shirt. And but we're taking the raglan t-shirt, editing it a little bit to put a ruffle on the bottom, and then put like ruffled cap sleeves, and so it doubles as the swimsuit top as well as a rash guard, and you know, protects you from the sun and all that good stuff. So if you missed making these, that tutorial, like I said, is also on my Facebook timeline. The photo tutorial is in the link in the description of this video, so you can check that out, and or you can find it over on the Brother Sews page. So I've made two. I'm making these for my nieces for their birthday, and there's 3 of them in one family. So I've got 2 of the 3 shirts done, and today we're going to make 2 bottoms to go with these 2 shirts, and then I'll just have 1 left. But I did want to mention, if you didn't see on Monday, that you can use the same pattern with, you know, more manly swim fabric to create this swim shirt for boys using the same raglan pattern. So, and the reason I'm calling it a swim shirt or a rash guard is because it's made of swim fabric. So I'm using actually the same fabric I am to make a swimsuit or swim bottoms I use to make these shirts. So it's going to hold up well in water. It's going to protect from the sun, and you know, it's like a swimsuit, but it's a shirt. So, but when we pair it with some cute little bottoms, it's going to be an adorable, you know, piece. I also want to mention I'm working on a new free sewing pattern. It will be posted on Friday. It's going to be a girl's Bermuda shorts. So cute. And this is going to come in sizes 4 through 16 with pockets. And you can put a little pocket on the back if you want. But really cute. You can make it out of denim or chambray or, you know, a light twill, whatever you want. But check in with these and come back on Friday because I'm going to be posting this free pattern on Friday morning. So you can look forward to that if you have a girl between the ages of 4 and 16. Of course, approximately, depending on measurements, that you want to sew for. That pattern will be up Friday morning, so you can come and take a look at that. I'm glad those of you who were looking for me found it, and you haven't missed anything. I'm just getting ready to sew, so that's great. Patricia, yes, it's a faux fly, a faux fly pull on with a partial elastic waistband. It's not a full elastic. It's a little bit flat in the front, but elastic waistband on the back. So keep it simple, elastic pull on, even teenagers can have that. Fake flies are great for all of us, even moms and adults. Okay, so just to recap one time, we are making a pair of swim bottoms, bikini style swim bottoms, to go with this cute little swim top that is a rash guard. And my kids had some of these, I think they were from Target last year, that were really cute. They looked very similar to this. And yeah, so this will be the top, and then we're gonna make little bottoms to go with it. So let me show you what I have pre-cut, and then we'll get started. So for each swim bottom, you need a front and a back cut from the fabric. So there's the back, here's the front, and then this blue fabric, the pink is actually quite a bit thicker. They're from 2 different companies. So I'll just say that the blue swim fabric is a bit thinner. So I'm going to line it. So I've cut a front lining and a back lining. For kids swimwear, I don't always line it. Hey Michael, so I think they're supposed to share it, but I don't know if they've done it yet. So I don't have the capabilities to put that link on there. Because I don't have admin rights to their page. So I think they will, but obviously they haven't done it yet. So I apologize that it takes you guys a while. Last Wednesday they did share it directly to their page, and so when you scrolled through, it was right there. So hopefully that gets there. Patricia says the link is there. So I'm sorry. I know it's confusing, and I really appreciate you guys coming on over. Even if it took you a little bit to get there. Okay, yep, so we're lining the bathing suit. Now, for the waist, I'm going to use this 5/8 inch elastic. Okay, so about a 1/2 inch. I'm gonna use that for the waist. And I have, I'm trying to think, do I have my waist measurements for my nieces somewhere? Oh, here it is. Okay, so I have the waist measurement, so then I can cut the elastic to the right circumference. And thanks, Angela, no worries. And then for the leg holes, you can use 3-inch, I think a lot of swimsuit patterns call for 3/8 inch elastic, but I actually prefer thinner. So I have this 1/4 inch narrow elastic, and I've had this for forever, so I know a lot of you don't have this right now because you've been making masks and you're all out of it, but eventually it will be back in stock, or maybe you have some. But so I have 1/4 inch elastic, and then I also have this 1/4 inch clear elastic that is, you can buy it on a roll like this, or you can buy it, sometimes it just comes in a bag. Depends on what kind. This is pretty thick, so this is what I would use on the leg openings. And I'm going to show you 2 different ways to use these 2 different kinds of elastics, making swim. So it's up to you what you want to use. I kind of like I like both. So anyway, so I'm going to make 2 bottoms. I'm going to show you how to use these 2 different kinds in the leg openings, and then we'll use this elastic on the waist. And I'm just going to go ahead and cut my elastic here before we move over and sew. Real quick. So let me just cut this. All right. So now we'll take, I think I have these pinned together, our elastic and our fabric, and we're gonna head over right here. Okay, and so those of you just joining, we are making some swim bottoms to go with the swim tops that we sewed on Monday on the Brothers Sews Facebook page. So if you didn't see that, you can check that out, and I'll show you the whole outfit together at the end of this so you can see really how cute it looks with the swim bottoms and the top together. It's a great combination, super cute, and a really fun way to make a 2-piece bathing suit for your kids. And the pattern information, both for the top and the bottom, are in the description of this video if you want to check that out. So go ahead and check out those links while we're sewing, and then you can have all the information that you want. So I have my 3rd shirt. Like I said, I have 3 nieces, so I have the 3rd shirt cut out here, and I'm going to sew that up, well, at some point when I get around to it. So I'm first going to start by putting the fabric right sides together, lining up the side seams. Now I will mention real quick that this girl swimsuit is a full suit. It's a 1-piece, but it's very easy to just cut it and make it a bottoms, and I've done that many, many times for both my daughters and my nieces. So that's what I'm using. So I'm using my girl swimsuit pattern, and I've just cut it down. And usually what I'll do is I'll have girls measure either a swim bottoms that fits them well to determine, you know, the rise, the front rise. But what I'm doing is I've just cut it, and we have, I don't know, how wide is that? About 4 inches on the side seam, and then part of that will be the top elastic. So we will have about a 3-inch sort of rise on those swim bottoms. But you can make high-waisted or low-waisted or whatever you want. But this is just part of a full bathing suit pattern. Okay, so I'm going to line up the side seams, and then I'm going to place the swim lining directly over it and under it, because I want both the front and back, and we're going to sew this all together. Okay, now you just, if you're not adding lining, you just do all this but without the lining. Okay, so I've got 4 layers of fabric, 2 of swim in the middle, and 2 of lining on the outside, both on the back and the front. And then I'm going to pin or clip the 3 main places we're going to sew, which is the side seams and the crotch seam, which is a word I never say unless I feel like I'm sewing, and then I don't know if there's another term to describe it, but it's what it is. It's the seam between our legs. Yes, you really haven't missed anything if you're just joining. We really are just getting started. We're sewing a couple pairs of swim bottoms. I'm going to show you a couple different ways to put the elastic in the legs. Okay, so here's the swim bottoms, clipped or pinned at the bottom and the 2 sides. And I'm going to go ahead and do the second one. We'll kind of do this assembly style today, which is a fun way to sew. And so you can see how we're doing. So there's a front. We place the front right side up on top of it. Then we place the back right sides together, sandwiched in there. And then we'll put the other lining on the back. And then just like we did before, we're going to pin, we're going to pin those 4 layers of fabric together. And the only thing that I was describing is that this is a full one-piece bathing suit pattern, and I'm just cutting the bottom part of it to make it into just swim bottoms. So it's easy, even if you feel like you only have a one-piece bathing suit, you can totally adjust and use that to create just bottoms. Okay. Sorry, Chrissy. Okay, hello. All right, so now I'm going to sew on my serger the side seams and that bottom crotch seam, sewing all 4 layers of fabric together. Let's see. I just rethreaded my machine right before this because I had dark thread on it, so I just want to make sure it's all good. All right, so sewing the side seams. If you don't have a serger, just like with any other knit fabrics, stretchy fabrics, you will want to make sure that if you don't have a serger that you use a knit stitch or a zigzag stitch when you're sewing this on your regular sewing machine. So you totally can do it. You just need to make sure it's stretchy because it's a bathing suit and it will need to stretch, okay? Lots of stretch. So we're making cute little swim bottoms, and you can see they're already starting to come together because it's very simple. And these are gonna go with the adorable little tankini tops that we've already made. So if you missed that, you can check those out on the Brothers Sews page, or hang tight because when I finish this, I will show you how they look together and putting them together. So Michelle, this is not stretch thread. I'm just using my regular serger setup. I haven't changed anything. There are people who will tell you that you need special thread and special elastic to sew swim. I have never done either of those, and the thing is, I find that before the elastic wears out, or before I've never had the thread give out. Sometimes you will have the elastic give out, but really, either your kid is, especially for kids swimwear, they're gonna grow out of it, or they're gonna rip a hole in it, or they're gonna sit on cement and the butt's gonna wear through. Like, it's not, I don't find the need to change to special thread, but you can get polyester thread, not cotton thread, that is maybe better for holding up in the chlorine. Okay, so here's our second little cute swim bottoms. Okay, and you can see that we're gonna fold over the top, so it'll be a little bit lower than it looks, but we've got a great start here for our tankini. So let's see. So we have the elastic for the top, and then we need to put leg elastic in the leg holes. And there's 2 different ways, and we have 2 different kinds of elastic we can use. So I have the clear elastic. Okay. And so I'm going to do that first, and I'm going to put the clear elastic in by actually sewing it directly on my serger. And if you haven't done this method before, it's super fun, not only for swimwear, but for any other project where you need to put clear elastic directly into your seams. So let me show you how we're going to do this. And usually on leg openings of swimsuits, you want, if you have a child and can measure around their leg, that's ideal. But generally, because this is going to stretch and fitted, we don't really want our elastics much smaller than the opening, maybe slightly, but usually it's going to be about the same circumference as the opening. Okay, so you can measure your elastic, and I'll show you how we do that when I use the 1/4 inch elastic. But for putting in this clear elastic, We're not going to measure it. We're just going to sew it directly into our seam, and here's how we do it. So we're going to lift the presser foot on the serger. You're going to, there's a little hole right in your regular serger foot, okay? Where you, Jen, no, I don't think there's really any difference. It's a preference, or if you like sewing with one over the other, if you happen to have one over the other, experiment. This is thick clear elastic. I also have some really thin clear elastic, more like the kind you would see in a ready-to-wear shirt, like shoulder seam, and that I wouldn't use. But this is like bra strap clear elastic, and so it's pretty thick, or it's just sturdier. Okay, so you want to make sure that it's going to hold the legs of your suit in place. So you thread the elastic right through that hole in your serger, and then you go ahead and bring the tail all the way to the back. Okay, all the way to the back. So this is such a fun sewing hack, and then you can go ahead and lower your presser foot. So now when we sew, this clear elastic is going to just be serged right into the seam, and by the time I finished, I will not only have finished the raw edge, but I will also have put clear elastic into the seam of this suit. So let's take a look. So what we want to make sure we do is we want to sew the elastic on the wrong side of the suit, and I want to make sure that I catch in my seam both the lining and the swim fabric, so that when I flip it over, it's enclosed in the casing and both of those layers of fabric are together. So I'm going to start right near the bottom of that. And we are going to stitch the clear elastic right as we sew. We're not going to be pulling the elastic. It just sort of feeds right in. You can see it here in my hand. And it just ends up sort of feeding in and adding a little bit of tension as it goes automatically. So you guys are going to love this when I show you the final result. But I've used this to put clear elastic into waistbands, into, you know, there's just, this doesn't have to be swim to add this clear elastic like this. If you do want it to be gathered tighter, you just go ahead and put a little bit of tension on this elastic. I see your elastic about the weight. Let me show you the two kinds of clear elastic I'm talking about. Okay, but I'm going to sew back around. I'm going to make sure that I've overlapped my clear elastic. And now you can see this elastic is sewn right into that seam. Let's see. It's clear, so it's kind of hard, but it's in there. Okay, so you can kind of see how it's gathered it just slightly there. Let me grab my elastic that is, see if I can find it. Oh, I guess this stuff that's not as thick, you can see it's not entirely clear. It's more like elastic tape. And then this is perfectly clear. Okay, and it definitely feels different. And this one comes on a spool. Tracy, I'm going to show you on the next pair how to do this without the serger. So never fear, we will do it. Okay? I haven't tried the clear elastic in this same sort of auto method, but I am just going to show you how to sew in elastic, not on the serger. Okay, so let's do the second leg opening. And I don't even have to touch this elastic because it's fed into that hole in the foot, which is not what it was intended for, but it's totally a great use for it. You can just go ahead and sew around, and that elastic, oh no! All right, I'm putting it around the waist. I don't want it around the waist. We'll trim that off. I want it around the other leg hole. Look, I put it in the wrong hole. I was sewing it around the top. Okay, Take two. Take two. We're gonna sew it in the leg hole. I thought it seemed a little bit big. Sew it in the leg hole, and we've got plenty of, we can trim that off the top. Again, when you're sewing, whether you're sewing on a serger or your regular sewing machine, you do want to make sure when you're attaching your elastic, clear or regular, that you are catching both the lining and the main swimsuit fabric. It will just make everything easier in the next step when we fold the elastic over and create the casing. So again, make sure that you are catching both layers in there. I know, it does happen to all of us, doesn't it? Okay, so there's our cute little leg holes, and they will get straightened out and a little bit stretched out when we fold the casing over. And I'm gonna just do a super duper hack, and we're just gonna trim that elastic right off the top. I feel like we have an extra 1/4 inch to play with. They'll just be slightly lower, but we're just gonna trim that right. I'm gonna trim just a 1/4 inch all the way around, both where I sewed the elastic and where I didn't, because I really don't wanna rip it out. So we'll just trim that right off. And now we're ready to go. Okay. So there's version number 1 with clear elastic, and we're not finished yet, but there's what we're started. So clear elastic in there. You can fold this over now and either zigzag stitch it to enclose the elastic, or you can stitch it on your cover stitch. I'm gonna zigzag because my cover stitch doesn't always seem to love my elastic. So because there's elastic in there, and I'm a little bit more concerned, and it's live, which means anything that can go wrong will go wrong. We're going to skip the, skip it. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that my bobbin and my top thread are both the same color, because I might actually sew on the wrong side of the fabric, which means the bobbin will be on the top of our swim. So I've got a light pink here. I just need to wind myself a bobbin. I do have a stretch needle in this machine because we're going to be, we're sewing with swim fabric, which is a stretch fabric. And otherwise I'm just using regular settings and regular dual purpose thread. Okay, so my setup is virtually the same, and it looks like this pink is going to be out, so I'm going to have to grab another pink. We'll wind it all on the bobbin, and then we'll get a new, looks like we're full. Okay, but I'm going to go ahead and grab another pink to thread. This one's almost out, which means we're gonna, I'll have to thread it anyway at some point during this project. All right, so let's rethread the machine. You're gonna wanna make sure, yes, you have your stretch needle, your needle that can sew stretch fabrics on there, a full bobbin, and I would recommend, like I said, using a bobbin that you don't mind the color being seen, because it might, you'll see. Okay. So to enclose this casing, I'm going to fold it over one time to the back. Okay, so we will have our elastic enclosed, and then on the front, it will just look like a regular, the regular fabric. So you can sew both on the top or the bottom. It's up to you. Depending on, I don't know, if you feel like you can Sometimes I feel like I sew better when I'm on the right side of the fabric because I know it, I just can see what I'm doing better. And so I'm just gonna sew a couple inches and then stop and fold it over and stretch it. And because your elastic is already in there, you are gonna wanna stretch a little bit as you sew to keep the fabric flat and everything lined up. So that's why I have this one hand in the back, because I'm pulling from the back and pulling from the front to keep my fabric flat and laying down nicely. And I'm just folding that elastic over. And going around the leg hole. You can pin this, but it's just not, there's not a lot of space. And then sometimes I find I jam myself with the pins, and you know, as I'm going around this circle, the ones on the back get me. So it's up to you. I would rather just stop and start. I feel like you have to anyway to stretch the elastic, but it's up to you. If you'd rather have it all pinned to start with, you totally can. Okay, so we're almost back around to the front, or around to the bottom. We started on the very bottom. Got some weird threads going on there. All right. So we're going to stretch. We're going to sew right down the home stitch. I'm using a zigzag stitch. So it's nice and stretchy and really going to provide a great stitch for the leg opening. Okay, so there's the front. And then there's the back. So my serger seam is just folded over. It's got the elastic enclosed. It has the lining enclosed. And we've got some weird bobbin thread action going on where I started and stopped, but we'll make sure we take care of that later, okay? So now you can see how one leg is finished and the other one isn't. The free arm on the sewing machine. You mean like take this off? Oops. Is that what you mean? I could do that. I just am not, I don't know. I don't always do that. So it's not always on my radar, but it might be easier. And do make sure that you backstitch nicely. So that as this gets stretched and in and out of the water, that it will stay in place. Again, I have my two hands involved in this sewing because the back one is pulling just slightly to make sure that there aren't puckers, and it's definitely not perfect. I almost always end up with a pucker or two in the fabric, but to try and avoid puckers and to keep it moving through so it doesn't get stuck on any bumps or seams in the fabric. My zigzag stitch is just whatever the normal settings are, so it looks like it's a width of 3.5 and a length of 1.4. For those of you that were asking about what zigzag I'm using, if you would rather use a more narrow zigzag, you definitely can. I don't think I'd recommend using, I think you could adjust the width. I don't think I would necessarily adjust the length too much because you want to make sure that it's secure in there. All right, so now we have the second side of our little swim bottoms done. And these are definitely a conservative cut swim bottoms, okay? They're not high cuts, okay? So that's, you know, you can see the front and the back, but we don't have a really high rise. It's definitely a nice low rise on the arms and on the legs and the top. All right, so let me show you if you wanted to make this and sew the elastic just on your sewing machine and use, I'm going to sew in using just the regular elastic this time. So what I will do is I'm going to measure around the leg opening with my elastic. And then I'm just going to cut it just, I don't know, a ½ inch smaller because we will also have an overlap, and yeah, that will help us to put it on. So you can either sew it on straight like this, or we're just going to overlap it and try to stitch it with the zigzag to make it into a circle. And this thin elastic doesn't always want to cooperate. All right, so it's just tacked into a circle. It is definitely not highly secured, but that doesn't matter. We're going to be sewing it to our fabric. Make sure when you're creating the circle that you don't have any twists. Okay, you definitely don't want any weird twists in there. And then we will pin this to our leg openings. And again, we're going to be pinning it onto the back side of the fabric, or clipping it, as I'm going to be doing. Okay. Now, it gets a little bit tricky when you're trying to determine how to stretch this around your opening, because the back opening is shorter than the front because of it's more of a straight line, excuse me, and the front is more of a curved line. Okay, so usually what I will end up doing is grab the opposite half of my elastic and then walk about 1 inch to the back, and that's where I'll pin or clip on the side seam, and that gives me more elastic for the front part of the suit and less elastic for the back part. And then we're just going to quarter approximately the elastic around, and then we can stretch and sew that in. All right, so we'll do the same on the other leg opening. Place where I sewed the elastic together on that bottom crotch seam, find the other half of it. I'm going to walk about 1 inch back, and I'm going to place that on the side seam with the lesser of the elastic, the shorter part of the elastic, going to the back of the suit, and the longer part of the elastic going to the front of the suit. And then I'm, stretching and pinning. And this is always where I joke that I wish I had a third arm to be able to stretch and then have one to pin in the middle. Okay, so now we're going to, with our same zigzag stitch, we're going to sew this around. I'm going to sew on the wrong side of the fabric so that I can make sure that I have the elastic lined up and that I'm catching the lining and the swim fabric, right? So we want to catch all of that in our seam. And then we're stretching the elastic as I sew. And I'm using a zigzag stitch. And this is exactly how you would do it if you did not have a serger. You're just putting your elastic in with the zigzag. And then when you get around, you're finishing. And you can see that you have your elastic. I have a little bit of lining sticking out there, and but you can do it. And then we'll just fold over one more time and sew that elastic in. Okay, so yes, it is great to use this, to do this with the serger, but the end result doesn't look all that different, except for that sometimes I have this extra fabric that sticks out a little bit, whereas the serger trims all that off while you're sewing, so you don't end up with any lining ever sticking out or anything like that. But you can do all that by hand. Okay, so now we will do leg opening number 2. And my elastic just came apart where I had joined it, so we're going to try and zigzag that back together as well. I guess I didn't have it attached very well. Do you guys have one of those, what are those pointy things called, the metal things that you can use instead of what I'm doing right here? I don't have one of those, but I want one. I can't think of what it's called at the moment. But you use it instead of sticking your fingers where they don't belong, too close to your sewing needle. There's like a metal pointy thing. Where's that? Why is that thread caught in there? I'm thinking of the word stylus, but I know that's not correct. That's like a pen for your iPad. All right, so we're sewing in the second leg of the elastic, just stitching it around. After I have this one done, I will show you how to complete one of them with the top elastic. I won't bore you with both before I do the final reveal of our cute little swim ensemble, the whole thing together. But we'll at least finish one so you can see the complete tankini outfit. So let me trim my threads, and then we're going to do this one. Stiletto. That's right, Susan. Do I use a sharper, still a pointy thing? So if you were using the cover stitch, you could do this next step where you fold over and sew it on the cover stitch because it's a stretch thread, and I've done that. And usually I will do like a two needle cover stitch stitch with a single looper to secure this elastic over. But I have had some trouble with my cover stitch not really liking to sew through the elastic, but I've also had great results. So if I weren't doing this live, I would probably be much more willing to play around with it, but you guys can only take so much nonsense, I'm sure. And then for the serger, I'm using a 4-thread serger. And when you are sewing on your elastic, you do want to kind of make sure that you're sewing on the inner edge of the elastic so that it's really secured down and that this elastic won't, flip open or roll on this leg opening. So I'll show you this one in a minute. but it's essentially the same thing, only we didn't serge our elastic on the first time. We just sewed it on the machine. I will say the outside doesn't look any different, but the inside does look a little bit better when it was serged on. So here's the outside, okay, and here's the inside. So you can see it's just not quite as neat looking as this being the inside, okay? Whoops, let's see. But the outside looks the same. All right, so it's, you know, what you have. Don't let not having a serger keep you from trying to sew swim, I guess is what my main point is. If you don't have one, you can still sew swimwear. It can still be so super cute. And no one's going to see the inside of this suit anyway, except for the person wearing it. Okay, so we're going around and then we're going to sew on one of these. We'll add the waist elastic. You're not hungry. We just finished lunch. Okay, well, I'll give you a snack later. Not right now. Please don't play with that. Okay, go play. When I'm done, I'll get you a snack. This fabric is swim fabric from fabric.com. And the pink that I use in the other part of the suit is pink, solid pink from Raspberry Creek. And I will say, and I am not affiliated with either company, that the Raspberry Creek swimwear is much thicker. Okay, so it is probably a higher quality. The price also reflects that, but they're both pretty. So that's why I'm lining this blue, is just because it is just a little bit thinner and I don't want any see-through issues. Okay, so there's our other swim bottoms. It is a good time to ask for it. Okay, there's our swim bottoms. So now we're going to add the top on. So the first thing I'm going to do is sew this elastic into a circle. And then we will place that in the back center of our suit. Oh my goodness, we literally just finished lunch. I don't know how she's hungry again. And just like when you're sewing leggings, you should find that the elastic is about the same circumference, diameter, whatever you want to call it, as your swimsuit. You shouldn't really have to stretch it much, and that's because it should be tight to begin with, right? We stretch our swimsuits to put them on. They're not bigger than we are. So this elastic should just sort of stretch and be just about the same size as what we're doing. So again, we can serger on the top. We can, because I'm sitting right here, well, no, I'm going to back up. I'm going to use my serger. Okay, so we're going to take out the clear elastic and just sew until that comes out. You can see here the clear elastic sewn into that seam, right? Can you see that a little bit? All right. So I'll start at the back and sew. Don't play right there, you guys. Don't play right there, please. Just like anytime you're sewing elastic directly into a waistband, whether it's leggings or the swimsuit, you want to make sure you're trimming off a tiny bit of fabric and that you're not, as much as possible, not trimming the elastic. I also am trying to make sure that I'm sewing both the lining and the main fabric. If you've never sewed swim, I would probably try to recommend making an unlined version first so that you're not dealing with these 2 layers of fabric. It's just a little bit more tricky. I mean, if you haven't sewed swim but you're an expert seamstress, well, by all means, don't let me stop you from sewing 2 layers of fabric. But if you're a little bit more of a beginner, then you definitely might want, guys, don't play there, please. Somewhere else. All right, we're gonna put a tag in the back of the swimsuit right here, and I'm gonna sew that on. Actually, maybe I'll sew it on after, and we can cover up our stitches. So this one we don't have to pull as much because it is more just the same as the suit, but I still like to use 2 hands just to make sure it keeps moving. We have some thick spots, as in the side seam, and you want to just make sure it keeps going around. All right, so after we get this elastic on and my little label on, we're going to put this together with the top that we previously made, and you'll see how it comes together to make a complete swim set. We went on a beach vacation with my sister and my nieces in February, and my daughter had a 1-piece suit made out of this floral, and so my sister asked if I could make her girls swimsuits out of the floral, and then she said, oh, can you make them 2-piece? So we talked about kind of doing what I'm doing here, and it worked out really well. So for the tankini top and the swim bottom, linked for you there. Okay, so we have a little bit of a thing. I did not turn off the blade. Nope, I just leave it and I just trim along. Every once in a while, yep, I have nicked the elastic, but not usually enough to have to start over. All right, trimming a couple threads. Okay, let's swing around and take a look at this as a complete set. Okay, so here's our swim bottoms. And here is our cute little swim top. Okay, so let's lay these out, and then I will show you here. Okay, so you can see we have the bottoms, and then we have the top, and they look so cute together. Try to see if I can hold it up. So a great little swim set, right? So the ruffle should hang over the bottoms just slightly, right? And then you've got a fun little swim shirt, and you have swim bottoms, and there you go. So you can use the pattern and the pattern for the swim bottoms, and then the free pattern for the swim top, and combine those and make sort of any combination that you want. So yes, and you know what, from one yard of swim fabric, because it's 60 wide, I can probably make 2 to 3 of these sets of swimsuits for little kids. So you might think, oh, the fabric is expensive, it's $14 a yard, but if you can make 3 swimsuits out of it, it's really not, you know, it really ends up to be a good deal. So there you go, some swim inspiration for you. I hope you're inspired to sew swim for summer. This was not fold over elastic. I did see someone mention that. But if you want to know more about sewing fold over elastic on swim, you can go to lifesewsavory.com and search fold over elastic and see my photo and video tutorial there for using fold over elastic. And I use that to finish these leg openings instead of regular elastic. So anyway, there you go. I will see you back here soon. I'm not on Brother Sews on Monday, but Angela will be, so stop in. And I'll be back here on Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern. So I'll see you then. Bye.